I'm going to preface this by saying that you should probably have this on in the background while you're doing other things. You just play a video game, do your chores, whatever it is you have to do. Treat this like a podcast almost. There's no video, nothing interesting to look at, just me and my words, unscripted. I recommend that you do something else while you listen to this and keep your hands occupied and enjoy my thoughts. This part was pre-recorded before the rest of it, so I was just here to let you know and give you a heads up in advance. Thank you for listening. So, we have a nice short one today, which is fitting because I've been pretty busy all day. This is the first time I've actually been able to lay down and relax for a sec today. You may remember the episode I did on Wolverine Origin 2. I was sick. I had been up all night, and it was the morning. I was releasing horrible things into the toilet, and I just thought, like, oh, poopy experience, read a poopy comic. And I actually ended up walking away from that comic. A lot more appreciative of it, though still not exactly a fan. It was a lot better on reread than I had expected. And this is continuing more Wolverine solo stuff. Marvel officially places this after Wolverine Wild Frontier, and I might actually rearrange the reading list to reflect that because I think that actually is true. I think I made a mistake. Well, anyways, today we're going to be talking about Wolverine, the Amazing Immortal Man, and Other Bloody Tales. And this falls into a genre I like to call Logansploitation. Now, let me explain what Logansploitation is. Logansploitation is the name I have given to the subgenre of comics that are just one-shots focused solely on Wolverine. He's not sharing the spotlight with another character, nothing like that. It is just a story about Wolverine and or Logan, just not even as Wolverine, just Logan as Logan. So this is another instance of Logansploitation. This is our first instance on the list of Logansploitation, and there's going to be a lot of that. A lot of early Wolverine stuff is Logansploitation. There are some instances of what I'd call Logansploitation that kind of don't fit into the rules I just laid out, but the main rules are that it has to be a one-shot. Miniseries where the comics are not even 20 pages also count, because those kind of lend themselves, when combined, to the length of a single issue. It also has to focus solely on Wolverine. The title has to just be about Wolverine, no other character getting billing in the title. Those are the two main rules. There are some exceptions to this, like Agent of Atlas, which we will get to, but most miniseries, and especially any ongoing series of significant length, do not count. And there are some things that meet my rules for something to be a Logansploitation comic, but aren't technically Logansploitation for various technicalities, and we'll get into those eventually. In this series, we're going to naturally go through most of the Logansploitation. There will be some Logansploitation I don't go through just because I can't be comprehensive and check out literally everything, but also because a lot of it is just very insignificant. I'll give a mention to it maybe and lump it in with another review. I don't know. Some of these are significant, some of these aren't. Today we are talking about Wolverine, the Amazing Immortal Man, and Other Bloody Tales. The name sounds cool, and that's a reference to the fact that this comic is an anthology. The Amazing Immortal Man is the first story, and then we have two subsequent stories. The cover here by Simone Bianchi is probably the best part of this comic. It looks great. I love the hand-painted style here. Wolverine is incorrectly depicted in his costume when I don't believe we see him in it once. And this is another pointless addition to the list. It's here because this is a Wolverine story and is set before Weapon X. All these stories are pre-Weapon X, so naturally it would go here, but I don't think this is a series that has any real purpose for existing. Unlike Wolverine Origin 2, though, this is just a one-shot you can skip. It's not trying to be anything greater. It's not comparing itself to peak fiction like Wolverine Origin 2 was. All of these stories were written by David Lapham. Did a bit of work with DC, did a bit of work here with Marvel, mostly on Wolverine, and a bit of stuff for their Max imprint, which is the adult-only imprint. He also wrote the Age of Apocalypse ongoing series from the early 2010s, which I did not actually include that with the Age of Apocalypse section of the list because that ties heavily into comics that were being published at the time with dimensional time-traveling shenanigans. David Lapham has not done a whole lot of mainstream comic work. Again, mostly stuff for the Max imprint. We'll get to all of that. He's done some Logansploitation. He's most well known for writing and illustrating Stray Bullets, his own indie series, which has gotten a lot of critical acclaim. I have not checked out Stray Bullets, but I've heard it's really good. But if his writing here is anything to go by, I was not particularly impressed. There's 3 stories. We'll go over each one. The first one is The Amazing Immortal Man. Here, Wolverine works as the freak in a circus called The Amazing Immortal Man. I just realized this was 5 or 6 years before Wolverine Origin 2, so David Lapham did this idea first. But he's in the circus, and he's called the Amazing Immortal Man because he can fight anything they put in a cage with him and win. He finds out that some people at the circus are trying to do a scheme to get money, and it's illegal. And to top it all off, they plan to leave behind this gypsy at the circus. What's her name? Like Orga, something like that. She's pregnant, and she's due to give birth real soon, and she needs to go to a hospital. Like, oh, well, we've planned this score for too long to let a pregnant woman get in our way now. And they have left Logan out of the discussion here. And when he finds out that they're going to endanger Olga, who's pregnant, he's been close with lately, he decides to break out of the cage they have him in, and all the crazy people at the circus, the sword dancers, the lion tamers and stuff, sick everything on him, and the fire breather eventually sets fire to the whole circus tent, and Logan has to fight his way through all of them to try and get Olga to the hospital. It's an okay-ish story. This whole thing is framed as just the memory of one of the guys who worked for the circus and was in on this scheme, and he just thought there's no way he could have been capable of all of this crazy dude. The art for this was by Johnny Timmons, who I can't seem to find anything he's done at Marvel or DC outside of this, but he's got some credits to his name in the indie space. So he's not a nobody who just appeared out of nowhere. The second story is The Animal Man, which David Lapham illustrated himself. In contrast to the first artist, Johnny Timmons, whose work was very stylized and the way it was inked was kind of weird, it left everything to have this angular, very, I don't know, washed out yet pastel kind of look to it. Very clearly digital art, and it was stylized very interestingly in a way, but also not in a way that made the art look especially great or anything. I think the stylization kind of made up for how unspectacular the art was. Here, David Lapham does the art himself, and it's pretty good. It's not amazing, but it looks pretty good. He's got an interesting style to him. It's not a particularly unique style or anything like that, but it's a neat style to look at throughout the duration of the story. Here, this bus driver is on a bus, and these hoodlums on the bus are causing a ruckus, and when he brings it up to them, they start attacking him, and he just thinks, oh god, I'm going to die. And then Logan happens to be on the bus. He doesn't know who Logan is, but Logan beats up the men when he sees them attacking the bus driver, and the bus driver's bleeding out. Do any of you remember those memes from like the late 2010s about thanking your bus driver? I imagine those memes started because some guy read this and thought, oh crap, if I am mean to my bus driver, Wolverine's gonna kick my butt. And that's absolutely correct, because that's what he does. He beats up all the men single-handedly, and the bus driver thinks in his final moments, oh god, I'm gonna die, but at least these men are going to get theirs. And he wakes up in the hospital where his daughter tells him, you're lucky to be alive. Some strange man gave you a blood transfusion which allowed you to survive long enough for the doctors to operate on you. And the guy recalls the scene in his head and thinks, okay, that's interesting. That man had to have been some kind of animal beast thing. He shrugged off all the attacks like they were nothing and healed quickly. And then he thinks, if this man gave me a blood transfusion, maybe he put part of himself in me. And he does. He's healed from his injuries remarkably quick. They told him that he was lucky to be alive and that his injuries were very life-threatening. But he's able to walk out of the hospital several hours after waking up with nary a sign that he was hurt. He thinks that what happened was a wake-up call, that he needs to get in shape and make sure no one screws with him again. So he moves out of his house with his daughter, and he buys his own apartment with the money he saved up that he planned to use for his retirement. He goes and gets absolutely yoked. He has an awesome home gym in his apartment. He's exercising day and night constantly in his free time, not working. And he's finally looking a bit Wolverine-ish. And he decides that I'm going to become like that animal man. I am going to save lives, and I'm going to fight criminals. He put part of himself in me when he saved my life, and I have to return the favor. So every day on the bus, he's being hyper-vigilant of everybody who gets on the bus, and he's thinking about all these people, and what did they do? What have they done? Are they evil? Are they bad? What % evil is the evil things they've done? He sees this woman who he thinks is a prostitute who's messed with the hearts of men, so he thinks that lady's got to be the most evil person that I've seen today. 95% evil. And then when she gets off the bus, she starts getting harassed by all these guys who she turned down because they didn't have enough money to pay for her services. And now they've told her that they're going to force themselves on her without paying her. So the bus driver jumps out of the bus, and he goes for his claws, only to realize I don't have claws like the animal man. He has these 3 kitchen knives taped to his hand, and he's prepared to go out and fight these men. Tells them to leave her alone, and I'm not going to necessarily spoil how it ends, because I think this is the best story in the whole comic, and if there's one worth reading, it's this one. There's no significance or anything, it's just the ending is funny, and I liked it. The first story was a very generic Logan story, but this one had good humor to it. I liked the concept, and I think David Lapham does some interesting stuff with it, and I like the art too. David Lapham's art is pretty good. David Lapham's art in this story looks off in a way, but I think it in a way that adds to the charm. The final story is also written by David Lapham. He's wrote all of these. It's penciled by Kelly Goodine, who I could not find anything on. And the art here for this story looks like a very generic, of its time, Marvel comic. Nothing particularly interesting. The story has Logan attending a fair, and he just sees a crowd of people gathered around this man who has a giant crater in his chest. He doesn't know what caused it, some killer of some kind, so he decides to go around looking for the killer, and he sees a hoodlum robbing a woman, and he smells the same scent that he got from the corpse. This man has to be responsible. So he chases the guy down, and he comes to the conclusion that this man isn't who did it, but there's something inside him that must have made him do it. And so the two of them fight. Then they go onto a roller coaster, which is a very fun action set piece. While they're fighting, the criminal falls off the roller coaster and splats onto the ground. Then it's revealed that it was an alien parasite, and it just happened to jump into the body of a criminal, and now must have jumped into the body of some random innocent person, he thinks. And he's tracking down this trail of dead bodies, each one big crater in the chest from this parasite, until he goes into a church. And they're like, "You're not going to kill anybody in this church, are you?" And he's like, "Well, if whatever I'm chasing is inside one of you, I'm going to have to." And then he finds out that the parasite was found by a nun at the church who's been taking care of it, and talked about how it's just a baby, and she's swaddling it. It is a baby. So she's told him that he can't. Logan thinks, oh, well, it's a baby. It doesn't know any better, but its nature as a parasite naturally does mean it's going to be killing humans. So he decides that he's going to let it grow up, enjoy its weird alien childhood, and then when it's an adult, he's going to come back and kill it once it starts taking over people again. And that's how it ends. I'd say that was the worst one here because it doesn't really resolve. Like I said, the roller coaster is a fun action set piece, and it leads to an interesting fight scene that lasts for a couple of pages, but nothing about this story here really had anything. It's just, it starts with him enjoying a day at the fair, and it ends with him deciding, well, I'm going to enjoy the rest of my day at the fair. There was no significant stakes, no real emotional investment, nothing really. It's just he fights a guy with a parasite inside of him. Coney Island Baby, the third story, that ranks as number 3. It's the worst one here. Nothing really of interest outside of the scene of the roller coaster. The Amazing Immortal Man ranks number 2. There's a kind of an interesting story being told. Neat framing device, but it's not really a story with all that much value or worth or interesting things going on. The second story, Animal Man, is the best one. Probably the story of least consequence, but I like that Wolverine is just a guy who appears for a couple of pages and then leaves such a strong impression on this dude. The writing and the humor in Animal Man was actually funny and enjoyable. That was where I enjoyed myself the most, was this humorous story, and the art was interesting. David Lapham's own art style here added a unique edge to it, but a nice, decent level of quality overall. I think this is a totally skippable read. I would not actually recommend you read this, but The Animal Man was a very enjoyable story, and The Amazing Immortal Man was also a good story. I'm going to go to a mean number generator and generate the mean score of all the number scores for the stories combined. That's how I'm going to determine this comic's number score. Coney Island Baby. Hey, Coney Island Baby, that's the name of a Lou Reed album. That's neat. Okay, so Coney Island Baby, I give that story... The art in it was good, but nothing that you'll want to stop and appreciate. So the art in that area was a 5. Writing was kind of weak overall. So averages out to a 4, I'd say. Amazing Immortal Man averages out to a 6, I'd say. Art in there was interesting to look at, and the story had some interesting things going for it, but it was a mid-story overall. 5.5. Okay, and Animal Man, that gets a 7.5. That gets a 7.5. And the final number score for Wolverine, the Amazing Immortal Man and Other Bloody Tales is 5.7. Did you read the story with me? What'd you think? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you think it was a waste of time? Did you think this was entertaining? Think it was a fun way to kill however long you spent reading this amount of time? What'd you think? This one-shot has been collected in Wolverine Prehistory. It's a big collected volume of a bunch of random comics that just feature Wolverine post-origin, pre-Weapon X. Came out in, I think, 2017. This is featured in there, and it also features the next thing on our list, Wolverine Wild Frontier, which we'll get to next time. If you want to read along with me, you can find it online or wherever you buy your comics from. I believe this Wolverine Prehistory collection is the only easy way to get your hands on this story. Make sure to comment down below or reach out and tell me what you thought of this series or any series we've talked about thus far. I'd love to have an open discussion about this. And if you want to read along next time, remember it's Wolverine Wild Frontier. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time.